Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura. And what happens when you find a quilt pattern that you love and you want to use, but it's not the right size, it's not the right season, and it's not the right color? Well, you change it up a bit. Now I have a really cute pattern of candy, candy, candy. And this was a Halloween pattern, a free one from Riley Blake. I love the thought of the candy, but I wanted it for Christmas. So I am going to use some Christmas fabric, change the background, change the layout, and turn it into a table runner. And it's all about sweet treats. I think this candy will be really fun in Christmas fabric. I'm going to change the background and make it light so all of those candies really pop. And I did have this bundle from Riley Blake, and it is called Merry Little Christmas. And what I like about it is it's all about candy. So I am going to use a light background that I found with these little flowers on it. So it's going to sort of look like dots. This, I'm going to do my backing, some fun striped binding, and then I'm going to pull out some dark colors, red candies and green candies. So I get to put these away for another project. So the fabric has candies and some great striped fabric. I think it'll go really nice with this background. So I'm going to change the cutting directions to suit the fabric that I'd like. And all of that dark background will now be light. So I'm going to make the little peppermints out of the red and green. They're all going to be the same with that background. I have those small wrapped candies, and I've used different fabrics, and I do have the background fabric. And then I have these nice big candies. So I'm going to work on making one type of candy at a time. Now the little peppermints have us do some going in one direction and then have some going in the opposite direction. And what we're going to be doing is making half square triangles and then a stitch and flip. So the red is going to remain the red, my yellow will become my green, that black will become this background fabric. So we're going to make those half square triangles in the traditional way. Draw a line from corner to corner and then stitch a scant 1/4 inch on each side and then cut apart on that line. And when each side is opened up, we will have 2 squares. We're going to trim those squares down to 1 3/8 of an inch. To stitch and flip the corners, we need to stitch and flip a corner onto a square. So the square is 1 3/8, and we have this 1 inch square, and we're going to stitch right from corner to corner. We're going to trim the seam allowance, and when we fold that back, we have not changed the size of the square, we've just added a corner. We are then going to be able to sew those pieces together, and they do have a few different layouts. And when we sew those corners together, we're going to be able to join them together. And then when we join these together, we're going to have our little peppermint candies done. So the pattern does have us doing the swirls going in one way and the swirls going in the other way. I have decided to do my swirls all the same way, and all of my fabrics are the same. And this is where you can have some fun and change up the fabric and change up the direction of the swirls. The next block I'm going to make are these little candies. So for each little wrapped candy, I need a 5-inch square and 2 2.5 inch squares, our letter U background fabrics, and our letter T background fabrics. So that 5-inch square, we're going to do a stitch and flip on each side. So we can put that, we're going to stitch on 2 corners and flip that over. So we're going to stitch right from corner to corner. Then we're going to take our T background fabrics and we're going to do another stitch and flip. Stitch, flip. So those are 3 pieces that we stitched and flipped. Then we're going to put piece S on each end. And then to fill in this space, we need R. So when they're sewn together, we will have the candy shape. So we're going to sew those rows and then put the rows together. And that's going to give us that small wrapped candy. We now are going to make those big wrapped candies. For each candy, we're going to need a 5.5-inch square, 2 3-inch squares, and those are going to get the stitch and flip on each corner. And then 2 long strips of fabric. The background fabric needs to be 2¼ inches by 17 inches. The matching candy fabric is going to be 2½ inches by 14½ inches. And we're going to match up the centers and then stitch that together and press it open. We're also going to need some triangles, and we're going to get those triangles from one big background square at 8½ inches, and we're going to cut it twice on the diagonal, and that's going to give us those triangles. From this strip of fabric, we are going to cut 2 triangles, and those are going to go on the end of the candy. On the back page, we do have a template. So I've taken that template and I've transferred those marks to a ruler. So I'm going to be able to take that and cut 2 of those triangles. Once those are done, I'm going to be able to put my candy together. 2 of the background fabrics are going to go on each side. And it's going to be very easy to tell which side to add on. We do have the picture, but we're going to be able to see a straight line coming down. These will match except for a 1/4 inch right there on the corner. So when we match that together and stitch down, we're going to come off about 1/4 inch. So do the one side and then do the second. And that's going to be the center of the candy. We're going to do the 2 ends. So when we look at the pattern, that is the center. We're going to do these 2 ends, and they're both the same. And it's going to look like a triangle. And that's probably the easiest way to lay it out. Put the candy piece into the center point of the background fabric. So it's that same size. So we have a triangle. We're going to be able to match those sides together and stitch a 1/4 inch. And when it opens up, we're going to have a triangle with the candy in the middle. Those corners means we're going to be able to finish our nice big wrapped piece of candy. These seams are going to match up. This seam is going to match up. So that's giving us a long rectangle with our wrapped candies. We now have our large candies, the small candies, and our little peppermint mints. Now we're going to sew these 3 different sizes together into units. And to do that, we are going to need some extra background fabric to make up the differences in the sizes. So to make that one big block, we're going to put 2 small candies together and sew that onto the large candy. We're going to make a unit. So we're going to take that little peppermint and sew some sides on. This will now match this size, which will go together, and we're going to be able to finish that off. So when we sew all of those pieces together, we're going to have this big unit. Now we're going to be able to go through and make all of the units, and at the very end, we're going to be able to put these units together, and that is going to give us the quilt. However, I do not want to make a quilt. I want to make a big, long table runner. But this length is 25 inches. So to maintain it, I could trim a little bit here in this candy or add a strip of fabric. So I'm going to add strips of fabric. So I'm going to make this table runner 25 inches by however long I can do with all of these candy pieces. So I'm going to do this unit, and any other unit that I can configure to get something that's going to fit. So I'm going to make units and just have them fit together by adding pieces or by trimming a little piece off. I want to mix and match these so the candies are going throughout the entire unit. These do give me good ideas on how to lay them together. I might add some candies and I might have to take some candies out. But when I'm done, I want a nice, big, long table runner using as many of these pieces as I can. So to put this together, these two were exactly the way in the pattern. This one, I just had to add little strips on the corner. I had some candy left over, so I put it together in a strip, making sure it is the same size. I did add a border just like the original quilt did. Now it looks totally different than the pattern. Well, the fabric is different and that background is different, but it really is fun and it's going to be a lot of fun for Christmas. I'm going to quilt it with that background of candy and have a nice striped border on, and it's going to be nice and festive. Now, of course, you can always do the quilt and just keep adding pieces if you want to make it bigger, or if you want to make it smaller, just omit some of the candies. The fun thing about quilting is, well, these are great to start with, but it's always fun to rearrange them. I'll put some links in the description so you can see the free pattern and the fabric that I used. And as always, thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter. It's all free under Sew Very Easy. And be sure to make every day a Sewtacular day or a So Sweet day. Bye for now.